Welcome back, folks. This is Acid Root. So this is part 1 of Let's Play Donkey Kong 3, and this is kind of the oddball game in the series, so this is definitely like a nice little quickie to have here. It's going to be 2 parts, each of them about 7.5 minutes, so this is just some good stuff to have, like a plate of nachos or a burrito. If you're getting some Taco Bell, something like that, just a nice bean burrito, something real cheesy, something nice to have. Good plate of nachos, even if you're making homemade nachos, this is just some good stuff for the next 15 minutes. So yeah, basically, it was kind of obscure trying to figure out this game. Apparently you can be defeated by Donkey Kong if he jumps down here, so you have to keep spraying the bug spray at him to keep him up and above. This kind of happens to kind of be the thing about it, but then you also have to defend your garden from the bugs. This kind of happens to kind of be the thing about it. So there's just plenty of these situations. Really the thing about it is just the fact that this character is really not Mario, so you get this cat named Stanley in here who has to protect his greenhouse from, like, Donkey Kong and the bugs. That's kind of the thing about it. Like, I would probably say that this game is about, like, a 6.5 or a 7 out of 10 for me. And the main reason why I give it that score is not so much the gameplay and the overall feeling of the game, it's just the fact that you don't really, I mean, the laziness of it, there's only real 3 stages to kind of see, and the thing about it is both stages 1 and 3 are basically the same type of stage. I mean, later on, after you beat stage 3, the leaves on the left and right there that are green start turning red, but other than that, there's just not very much kind of elements that really showcase any sort of progress. I mean, I know for the 80s, you know, at least having some degree of situations a little bit different, but I kind of look after, I just felt like the first Donkey Kong, especially the one for the arcade where you can play 4 stages, not just the one for the Nintendo that only has 3 stages, but the 4-stage one just had so much more effort and execution than this one. That one's just a classic. Donkey Kong is obviously like a 10 out of 10 video game. I'd probably say Donkey Kong Jr. is about a 9, something like that, 8.5, 9, somewhere in that territory, but I just would have to say this one's about a 7. I mean, just enough to kind of say that it's a worthwhile kind of one. This is kind of obscure. I can see this one not being talked about as much as far as that kind of goes, but it's a nice little gems, good for a plate of nachos, that type of stuff, so we're just going to kind of get through it and see some of the stuff here. Basically, like, if you can get Donkey Kong to the top with the bug spray, which you do have to really spray him with the bug spray to kind of get that, but you can get, like, a special bug spray that'll allow you to beat the stages quicker, and that's the kind of concept. It's basically like the super bug spray, is what I have to say, but yeah, these games, like all of these games, the 3 Donkey Kong games and then Popeye really all had some merit to them. I just would have to say they're overall pretty quality. They just have some good assortments, and I would definitely, if you're finding this game somehow, if you're just looking up like Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze or something like that, one of those Donkey Kong Country Returns games, and you just happen to happen upon this game, I just would have to say, yeah, between this game and then Popeye, both of which are just immediate kind of appeal games to kind of have for like the after hours sessions, this would definitely say if you're just looking for a nice midnight snack like some nachos or like a burrito, something like that. Might have said this before, but I just would have to say it's just some good fare as far as that kind of goes. Yeah. Definitely kind of the thing. If you've got a pinball machine in your home and you just miss like 1983 and 1985 and those type moments, I feel for you. I definitely know what that's like to kind of have those concepts. It's definitely something to kind of have back in the mixture. And these are just good times. I mean, it's okay to have shrines in your home to 80s and that type of stuff. If Tron's one of your favorite movies, and movies like Big Trouble Little China and some of those type bops, it's definitely a good fare for that. Definitely works. Return of the Jedi, some of those type movies, some of your favorites. Yep, I know just all about it, man. This is kind of the concept. Just definitely get some nachos going, just have a time. Is kind of the thing, but I want to say this game actually came out for Atari or something like that. I'm not wholesomely kind of sure, but this is kind of, yeah, I just would say it's some good stuff. So yeah, there's just not, like, that's the unfortunate thing about this game, is I was kind of expecting, like I was saying before, a little bit more of like a little bit kind of more adventured kind of style as far as talking about like the concept of beating this, because you just look at these characters in this game, it's just so abstract and kind of one shot. It's just kind of, you don't really know what to make of it, just because it's just kind of a random encounter. It doesn't really even, like, I wonder if you bought this game when it came out back in the 80s, if it said in the booklet as far as that kind of went, this as far as trying to say like the actual storyline of this game. I think it probably just said real briefly that Donkey Kong is running amok again, and he found his way to a greenhouse, and he's just destroying this Stanley guy's crops and that type of stuff as far as that kind of goes. This would have to say, but I just look after it, I mean, it just doesn't really apprehend as to how Stanley kind of defeats Donkey Kong. I think that's just kind of a disappointing aspect to kind of realize, is because you wonder, where that came from, and you know, Mario saying, hey, that's not my problem, or something like that. You know, he's probably porking Pauline or something like that, whatever you say about that particular concept. But this kind of has the gesture of like this Donkey, and it just kind of goes to show that Donkey Kong is not just like, I mean, he's kind of mischievous. You look at after that particular concept, it's just kind of being able to say that Donkey Kong, you know, at least in the first game, he might just have seemed like a wild animal that just, you know, escaped like the zoo or something like that, as far as that kind of goes. But it just, you know, he becomes more of like a repeat offender as far as consecutively having the situation. I mean, he is an animal and he's a giant monkey, but you still look after just being able to say that this is like the second person now that he's bothered. This is kind of the situation, but yep. So we're basically going to, unfortunately, like I was saying, this bee character, this bee that's kind of encircling me right now, just gave me a lot more problems. I just would have to say, I did figure it out later as to how to deal with it. This is kind of the concept that there's just a lot of stuff, as you can tell, there's a lot of stuff on screen, especially for an arcade game. This is actually quite a bit. I just would have to say it's stuff that's surprising how many arcade, or even for the Nintendo, the old, the 80s Nintendo, this is still pretty, like, lots of stuff that kind of goes on here. And, you know, like most Atari and Nintendo games, it only takes one hit to die, so it's just kind of the concept that, you know, so I had to start over, so it did get a game over just like that. It was just kind of the concept of, so yeah, we're about on the verge of being in part 2 here, and we'll definitely get to some more of these. But yeah, I just don't see this game getting very many LPs of. I kind of think it's very abstract, and most people can probably beat this game in about 2 or 3 minutes. This is actually shorter than Donkey Kong Jr. and Donkey Kong if you're playing the right versions of it, like for the arcade or something. So this just needs to get a little bit more fair. Just something that's not quite beats the game in 3 minutes, something like that. But we'll just definitely have to kind of see about it. So just stay tuned for part 2. Definitely go make yourself another plate of nachos, something like that. Get some stuff from Taco Bell, something like that. Definitely pick up like the bug spray power up, this kind of thing. So I'll see you next time. We'll get past this game some more.